Okay, hello everyone. Welcome. I'm so glad you were able to join me on this lunch hour on this lovely, bright, sunny day, or at least it's bright and sunny where I am. I've been looking forward to doing this webinar all week. Well, actually, since I set it up a couple weeks ago, because this is one of my favorite things to talk about. So I'm so excited to get started and have you all here. Please feel free as we're proceeding to go ahead and ask questions in the chat, and I will get to them at some point, probably toward the end. Also, as you may have noticed when you join the session, it is recording. So you will get an email probably tomorrow afternoon with a link to the recording so that, if you miss anything or you want to review anything or even share it with your friends, you can do that as well. So with that, let's get started. Let's talk about getting unstuck. Oh, and by the way, I always forget this part. I'm Judy Sims. I'm the founder of this Expansive Woman Project. And my job is to help women proceed through their careers. What we talk about at the Expansive Woman Project is that we are here. I'm just going to share my screen with you. Hang on. And we are here to provide career strategies for women who are done waiting. I firmly believe that the more women we have in senior positions in organizations, governments across the world, the better it is. I can see Kelly has her hand up. Hi, Kelly. What can we do for you? I'm going to allow you to talk. Hi, Kelly. Oh, and we're not.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Judy, I'm not sure if it's just myself, but you're having an awful echo.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. I didn't want to wear these, but I shall. Hang on. How's that, Kelly? Is that better?
That's great.
Yay! Thank you so much for letting me know because I would have gone through the whole thing and recording it and not known. So Kelly's our hero, everybody. Thank you so much for doing that. Okay, let's get back to it. Oh, I'm so grateful you did that. Okay, so career. Kelly was done waiting for me to stop echoing, so that's very good. So my firm belief is that the more women we have in senior positions in organizations, governments, companies around the world, the stronger those companies function and also the better they function. So here's what's actually going on in the world right now. So you can see here that at the entry level, about 49% of new employees are women. And then that number steadily decreases until we get to the C-suite level, where only 30% of women are in the C-suite. And if you look at the top bar there, you can see that women of color account for 21% of entry-level positions, and their drop-off is even sharper. So only 7% of women of color make it to the C-suite. This makes me mad. I don't care for it. Here's another fun fact for you, and I've been learning a lot about this one recently as I've been reaching out to various organizations to work on women's career advancement with them. Is way back in 2017, right at the height of the Me Too movement, about 88% of companies said, yeah, we're all about gender diversity. We're focusing on that. And you can see that in 2025. And that was, by the way, at the beginning of 2025. That number is from January. It had sunk to 67%. And I think it is considerably lower now because I'm hearing a lot of things from people who work in trade organizations, for example, that they are actively being told not to focus on any sort of DEI efforts, including women's career advancements. And you can see also that racial diversity in 2019, just before Black Lives Matter, was 77%. And actually, even through Black Lives Matter, it decreased all the way down to 67% as well. So we're not doing that well. And here's the reason why that is such a silly thing is that companies that are actually high performing, so the top 25 performing companies tend to have a lot more women at senior levels than the bottom 25. So this is where our evidence comes that having more women in senior positions does create better results for companies. But this chart isn't all good news because if you look at entry level in the top performing companies, it's at 63%. By the time we get to the C-suite, it's still only 38%. So that is a decline of 25 points. And if you look at the entry level for the bottom 25%, it starts at 40% women, but then it only decreases to 23% women. So it decreases by 17%. So while, yeah, it shows that women or companies with more women in senior positions perform better, it also shows that the drop off is steeper. It's harder for women in high performing companies to actually make it into the C-suite. So, what's going on here? At the Expansive Woman Project, what we work on is, first of all, yep, there are structural barriers. We definitely know that. This is an appalling quote from the Financial Times right after the new US administration came into power last year. So, we know that there's definitely these structural barriers. There are also tactical barriers that we, as women, experience in that we are more likely to be seen as capable executors, but not C-suite material, or we have a lot of expertise, but not enough people know about it. So if you suspect you might be in this position where you're kind of stuck at the director level, we have a free assessment on the expansivewomanproject.co where you can take a little 7-minute assessment. It'll tell you what kind of stuck director you are, and then it'll give you a free workbook, and we're talking about a substantial workbook, like 30 to 50 pages, depending on your profile, to help you make that tactical shift. Because there are some very basic roadmap things that you can do to improve your chances of promotion. If you're not at the director level, perhaps you're slightly below that or even above it, do this assessment anyway, because I think you will find something good for you in the workbooks as well. And then finally, we have our own internal barriers to success. So when we're feeling stuck, this is often where we go to. It's like, I'm stuck. It's all about me. And to some degree, it kind of is. So let's talk about that. That's what today's purpose is. So I've been studying stuck people and how people get stuck for um, goodness, almost 10 years now. It's kind of a hobby of mine. And there's three things I know for sure about being stuck. It's a very mysterious process, but there's three things I know for sure. And the first one is that stuck is pervasive. So lots of people feel stuck. And most of us do feel stuck at some point in our careers. And I will tell you that I actually worry a bit more about my clients who never feel stuck than the ones who do. Because at that moment you feel stuck, that there's a moment of recognition there. And there's something beautiful about it. It's like all of a sudden you don't have all the answers. And so you're in a place where you can begin to explore new ways of being and new ways of doing things. Secondly, is stuck is deeply, deeply personal. So what feels stuck to me may not feel stuck to you, and vice versa. So we shouldn't measure ourselves against other people. We shouldn't fall into the comparison trap because they might look super successful by your judgment, but they might feel terribly stuck and they might be looking at you and thinking that you've got it all when in fact you feel stuck. So try to avoid comparing your situation to that of other people. And then finally, stuck is perplexing. So when I study stuck, and when I work with stuck clients, I work with all these different modalities. So I look at the adult life cycle renewal process, which was created by a psychologist called Frederick Hudson. I work with complex systems leadership theory. I work at just the basic human motivation, like what is it that's driving us? So you might recall from back in your school days. Um, uh, Having learning about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And then finally, we all have these notions that we hold inside about who and what we think we should be. But today, because I want to give you something really good, we're going to go actually even deeper than that. Today, what we're going to talk about is your state of consciousness. And to do that, we're going to use the lens of the expansive state and the contractive state. So let's get started with that. Let's talk about what's going on with us when we feel stuck. So, first of all, and I know this happens to me for sure, is it feels like the stuckness is happening to you. It feels like you're stymied, like you can't move forward, and it's very, very stressful and frustrating. And that's because we have this external locus of control. So we feel like we have no control, like things are keeping me from getting where I want to go. Um, if we stay in this stuck place for too long, it can cause us to start to focus on negative things, just on the negative of our situation. And we miss little hints of our own success. We miss hints of our own progress because we tend to stay focused on that negative. We focus on our own inadequacies. I can't tell you how many clients have said to me, there's something wrong with me. There's something I can't do that isn't getting me where I want to go, or I'm not like those other people. Like we tend to focus on where we think we're failing. We also tend to focus on our painful past and the scary future. So, stuckness, it's not a fun place to be. And what happens is the weight of all of this negativity, it shrinks us. It shrinks us emotionally and mentally. And sometimes you even see it physically. You see somebody kind of contracting into themselves in their own posture. Next time you're out in public, like maybe in a food court at lunch or on a subway, look at the posture of people and you can see where their state of mind is. So I call this a contractive state, the state where we make ourselves smaller. And in a contractive state, we become defensive, reactive, and judgmental of ourselves and other people. So, to help you understand this contractive state a little bit better, and as you can tell, like the company's called the Expansive Woman Project, expansive and contraction are kind of my whole thing. So, I really want to help you understand what that means. We're going to use a tool called the drama triangle. So this was based on the theories of Dr. Stephen Cartman, who created it way, way, way back in the 1950s. And he used it initially to explain family dynamics. But then over time, other people got a hold of it and they started to realize that it can be applied to any group of people. So a group of people at a workplace, but it can also be applied to us as individuals. Just you can be in a drama triangle all by yourself. So, for this work today, we're going to talk about Stephen Cartman's theories as well as the work of David Emerald, who wrote a book called The Empowerment Dynamic, Jim Dethmer and Diana Chapman of the Conscious Leadership Group, and me, because I get my hands on it and I've made some changes to it as well. So, the first thing I'm going to do is change the name of it from the drama triangle to the contractive triangle. And not just because it fits my theory of expansion and contraction, but also because drama is a word it was used differently in the 1950s when Cartman created it. Now it's like a term that's thrown at women and queer people. And I also think it minimizes what we're actually talking about here. What we're talking about is more than just drama. So as we're proceeding, I want you to think about you. This isn't about other people. As you're going to learn about the contractive triangle, the first thing that's going to pop into your head is you're going to be like, oh, that's my old boss, or that's my cousin, or that's my ex. So avoid doing that. It's really, really easy to see other people in this. I want you to bring it back to you. I want you to think about your behaviors and your beliefs and your attitudes from within this triangle. So let's get started. When we're in a contractive triangle, we occupy one, two, or all three of the following roles. The first role is reactor. So think of that moment you have when something happens and you feel that explosion of adrenaline that comes through you. It's an instant reaction. It's very primal. It is linked to your nervous system, your fight or flight or freeze response. So that initial moment, that yeesh, that big reaction that you have to a given situation. And you can feel in that moment like you have no control. So somebody in a reactor state is like, oh, all these things are happening to me. I was just talking to a client today and she received a very nasty email from a colleague and immediately went into this reactor mode. And she went and confronted the colleague about it because she felt in that moment that she was out of control. So that's what we're talking about, either the feeling like you have no control or you are literally out of control. When we're in a reactive state, we tend to things like say things like, I can't stand this anymore. I can't do this. I'm not the type of person who, or sometimes just like complete exasperation, like, ugh, I can't, right? You think about sometimes politics, like, ugh, I just can't anymore. When we're in a contractive state, we focus on problems. And some people get so addicted to being in this state that the problems actually become their reason for being, right? So it's like it's good to have a problem because it can make you feel like you have a purpose or it can make you feel like you're important. People who are in a reactive state, when you know those moments when you're like, oh, it's just so unfair, right? That's reaction, that's contractive. And also, when we're in a reactive state, we experience big feelings. So, that moment when the adrenaline shoots through you, or you feel troubled by something. So, you're experiencing fear, you're experiencing anger, you're experiencing maybe embarrassment or shame. All these big feelings are coming up when we're in reactor mode. So, what's going on here is the reactor is fueled by blame. So, they're blaming people, they're blaming circumstances, they're blaming conditions for the emotions that they're feeling right now and the fact that they feel like they have no control. All right, so the next one is the persecutor or judge. So, where the reactor was fueled by blame, the persecutor is fueled by shame of self and others. So the persecutor is, they live in the world of should, right? So, like, I should be better at this. I should just be able to handle this situation. You should do this thing differently. They shouldn't have done it that way. It should be different. It should be more fair, right? So, that whole world of should, which is actually from, again, this powerless place, right? When we're in judge or persecutor rule mode, we have a very strong need to be right, and that's because mistakes are very bad. So perfectionists, by the way, any of you who suffer from a little pitch of perfectionism, as I do, might fall into this role. This is my preferred state. If I fall into a contractive triangle, I become a judgy judger who judges. And mostly I'm judging myself, but yeah, no, it's not beyond me to judge other people as well. We fall into that comparison trap that I was talking about earlier. So I am better than everybody here, or I am less than everybody here, and it can flip-flop back and forth quite quickly. They're the person in the room, in the boardroom, when you're discussing an idea, they cross their arms over their chest and they say, it won't work. That's your persecutor. So they're operating from a place of shame. And then finally, we have the hero. So this one surprises a lot of people because in our culture, in any culture, I suppose, heroes are a good thing, right? They run into burning buildings and they save people. I had a client once whose husband was literally a firefighter who runs into buildings and saves people. So we're not talking about that kind of hero. We're talking about a different kind of hero. So I'll ask you this. Can you think of a single happy superhero? In my experience, most of them are very miserable people. I think poor Batman just needs a break and maybe some time with a therapist. Even Superman, I think he'd be a lot happier if he were, teaching other people to fly rather than running around trying to save the world himself. So that's what the hero persona is about. It's somebody who rushes to the rescue while also kind of secretly resenting those they help. So the person in the office who's like, oh, nobody's going to do this, so now I have to do it. The one who like finally cleans out the fridge in the office kitchen, like, oh, now I have to do it, right? Or the workhorse. I can handle it, just give it to me, I'll fix it, I'll work all weekend. It doesn't matter. Give it to me, I'll fix it, I'll do it. Other hero behaviors, though, are more about self-preservation, so avoiding all conflict. I don't want to be seen as a bad person. I don't want people to not like me, right? So people-pleasing behaviors are also in hero mode. Like, I will do whatever you need me to do because I don't want to be disliked. And then finally, in linked up to that is that toxic positivity. So if you're in a workplace where, things maybe aren't going that well, but somebody's running around saying everything's great, when you know the opposite, and it can be really frustrating to experience that, that person is in hero mode. So I'm a little curious here. We're going to do a poll in a second, and I'll put them back up so you can see. But I'm wondering if you can identify when you're in a contractive triangle, which role do you lean into most often? So most of us do spin around in here. We tend to be in all of the different places, but also we do tend to lean into one more than others. So I said I am a persecutor, a judgy who judges, right? Are you perhaps a reactor who maybe focuses a lot on problems and feels a bit powerless in the world, has a lot of big feelings that are coming up? Are you like me, a persecutor who's focusing on how things should be and how I should be and what should be happening? Do you have a strong need to be right because mistakes are very, very bad? Or are you in hero mode? Are you a people pleaser, perhaps? Do you have a need to, like, oh, I'll just fix it? Do people in your office call you the mama bear of the team? Are you the workhorse? Are you the I can just handle it all kind of person? So I'm going to put up a quiz, and we are going to. Here's my quiz. Here it is. Please tell me which of these roles you tend to lean into most often, and then I'll publish it so you can also. Ooh, we have a good race going on here. Okay, excellent. Okay, interesting. All right. All right, I'm going to show it to you now. So what we have is a couple reactors, some persecutors, and a lot of heroes. And this is a pretty normal distribution when we have a group of women together. I did this presentation for a group of lawyers last year, and there was a lot more in the persecutor space, but still quite a few heroes. I did this for a team of Google salespeople at their annual offsite in last year, and they were mostly heroes as well. And then we always have a few brave souls who are willing to say, you know what, yeah, I react. I'm a reactor. I have the big feelings, and I tend to focus on problems. So thank you for that. Um, so now I'm curious. If you had to pick one of these, if you had to be in one of these roles, which one do you think is the best role to be in? And I'm going to put that up as well as a poll. Hang on. Okay. So if you had to be in a role, which one is best? Which one is best? Oh, this is very interesting. Okay. If you had to be in this space, which is the best one? I mean, none of them are great, right? But which is the best one to be in? Okay. So looks quite similar to what we had before. So most of it think, if you have to be in a role, you might as well be a hero. You might as well be a people pleaser. Some are like, well, you want to be a little bit more discerning. And then we have some who say, oh, you know what, it's best to be a reactor. And reactor people, you are correct. Actually, the best role to be in is indeed reactor. And the reason is those big feelings. What's happening when we go into hero or persecutor role is that we feel the feelings, like they come up and we're like, no, 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 I don't want any of that, right? I'm not going to have those feelings, especially if I'm at work. So we stuff them down. And the way we stuff them down and avoid them is by either judging ourselves or other people or going into hero mode and trying to fix everything. So you can see how if you actually allow yourself to feel the feelings without wallowing, I'm not saying you should stay in this state of being powerless or you should focus on problems, but if you just allow the feeling to happen, it can pass through you very quickly, and then you have clarity, and then you can move forward. So, all this business that we have at work, all the dysfunctional things that we see happening at work and in relationships, is really about us trying to avoid feeling the discomfort of big emotions. So don't worry, I'm not going to leave you here in this contractive triangle. I want to talk about the opposite of being in a contractive state, and that is being in an expansive state. So what are we talking about when we talk about an expansive state? Well, first of all, when we're in an expansive state, we are grounded in solid core values and purpose. We are grounded in the truth of who we are. We know exactly who we are. And from there, we are open to new ideas, people, and situations. And from there, we are able to reach all the new heights of creativity, energy, career achievement. All the things that we want in life come from being in this expansive state. And it is as simple as feeling grounded, knowing who you are, and opening and then reaching from there. So think of a dancer. She wouldn't be able to do these amazing fouette turns if her core muscles were disengaged and her shoulders weren't open. They were like all hunchy. She'd just lose her balance and fall over. But instead, what you see here is like her core is very engaged. She is very strong. Her chest is open. Her shoulders are down. And that's enabling her to do these fouette turns on a dime, which is quite amazing. So the same goes for you. And you can physically adopt an expansive pose at any time. Just sit up nice and straight and tall, engage your core muscles, shoulders down, chest open, chin parallel to the table in front of you. If you adopt this position in any meeting or on a Zoom call, it's amazing how people react differently to you than if you're kind of slumpy or, kind of covering your head or whatever. Just adopting this, even for a brief moment, because it can be hard to hold for a really long time, um, can help you feel empowered, but can also change how you're seen. So much of what gets us promoted is how we show up in rooms. And this is a big part of it. All right. So when we're in an expansive state, we now have that internal locus of control. So instead of feeling like the world is out to get us and the world is happening to us, we now feel like, okay, I have a sense of control within this situation. And this makes us feel authentically powerful. So I'm not talking about the kind of power that, is given to us in terms of title or position or money or possessions. I'm talking about the kind that arises naturally from within us when we experience an expansive state in that internal locus of control. We're in alignment with the truth of who we are. And when we're in that place, all of a sudden now, instead of focusing on problems, we're focusing on solutions and decisions. And we're able to set healthy boundaries, none of this people pleasing business. And because we have healthy boundaries, we're able to determine where we focus, where we place our focus. And we can place it on solving problems. We can place it on leading a team, being present, being authentic. We can choose how we show up in the room, which is so deeply important. And all of this makes somebody in an expansive state incredibly compelling. And you may be able to think of someone you know right now or have known in your life who you would describe as expansive as the things that we just discussed. And you want to be around that person. You want that person on your team. You want to work for that person. You want to promote that person. There's something about them that is magnetic. And that's what our goal is here is at the Expansive Woman Project is to help you experience that expansive state so that you can become compelling as well, become the true leader that you already are. All right, so just like we had a contractive triangle, we also have an expansive triangle. And here's what that looks like. So where before in the contractive triangle, we were in reactor mode. In the expansive state, we're in creator or co-creator mode. So we become very solutions oriented. Because what we're doing is claiming that authentic power. It's like, I have agency. I have control in the situation. We might ask questions like, oh, so this isn't what I hoped for, or this isn't the best situation, but what can I learn from what's going on right now? What might be possible? And also feeling and allowing those emotions. You create from a centered place, and you get centered by actually allowing the anger to pass through you, the fear to pass through you without attaching big stories to it, without ruminating on why those emotions are there. Just know, okay, there is anger. Not I am angry. There is anger. There is fear, and then keep moving forward in a creative way. Next, where we had the judgy who judges, we have a challenger. So, what the challenger is trying to do is create a win, and that's their deep intention. So, instead of here's how it should be, what they're actually saying is what could be possible. Let's come together. So, they work hand in hand with that co-creator mode. Let's come together and think about what could be possible instead of what should be happening. They also are able to challenge their own beliefs and get curious about what's going on. So, it's not like I know everything. When we're in challenger mode, we actually are operating from the place of I know nothing. It's a place of humility. But I'm curious and I want to know and I want to learn and I want to be in the world of could instead of the world of should so we can create a win together. And then finally, where we had a hero before, now we have a coach. And so what the coach is doing is inviting other people into the expansive state with them. So they're inviting others into agency. And they do that by asking questions. Things like saying to somebody who's acting up a little bit, what's the real challenge for you here? You can ask yourself that question as well. I coach myself all day long. This is a question I actually ask myself quite frequently. You can ask yourself or other people, what are you predicting? So much of our behavior is built on fearful or faulty predictions of what might happen. And another great question that you can ask yourself or other people is, what do you want? It's a question we so frequently miss. We come into a situation, we see what's going on, and we either leap to a conclusion or we assume we know what the other person wants and just act in that way, but we don't often ask others or ourselves, what is it that I actually want? And that's a big door to open. And I think that's why a lot of us don't, because sometimes the answer is, I don't know. And that's scary. And that puts us in the judgment mode, right? It's like, oh, I'm judging myself because I don't even know what I want. And when we're stuck, quite often that is a place that we find ourselves in. So if you treat yourself in a coach-like way and you just get curious and ask questions and think about what might be possible, I think you're going to find that you don't judge yourself anymore, that you actually find yourself in a place of, oh, there's an opening here. You're a sunrise. There's possibility, there's future, there's potential. So this is what we're like when we're in an expansive state. So we take ownership of of our own stuff. We co-create solutions. We feel our feelings. We think about what could be possible. We have a deep intention to create a win. We're asking lots of conscious questions of ourselves and others, and we're doing lots of conscious listening. So instead of being the people pleaser rushing in to help other people, we teach them how to help themselves. And we do that by asking lots of questions about what they're trying to do. So, the difference between the two. When we're in a contractive state, we're living in this fog of hope and fear. We're kind of being jerked around by hope and fear, actually. I hope things will go okay, but I fear they won't. And you can see that both hope and fear are powerless. They mean that we're not in control of anything. Whereas when we're in an expansive state, all of a sudden we have clarity. I felt the feelings. I'm not being jerked around by my feelings. I have clarity. I know what I want, or at least I'm ready to explore what I want. I have a clear feet on on the ground feeling about what's going on around me. So I'll ask you to think about the world that we live in and why the expansive and contractive state are such a big part of my work. So I will ask you, where do most elections take place? In the world of hope and fear or in the world of clarity? And if you think about elections too, often there's one candidate that represents the hope and one candidate that represents the fear. But very little actual clarity is offered. Or when we talk about climate change, are we in the world of hope and fear or are we in the world of clarity of exactly what needs to be done? Or when we talk about AI, are we in the world of hope and fear, or are we in the world of clarity? So you can see at all levels, from each individual all the way up to governments and global organizations, the expansive and contractive states are at play all the time. And because of the way the human nervous system works, the tendency is to go into contraction because that's our defensive mechanism. So the job we all have is to recognize when we're in that hero, reactor, persecutor mode and shift. Because when we're in the contractive state, what we're actually doing is prioritizing our own personal comfort over the truth of what's actually happening around us. Think especially climate change, right? When we're in an expansive state and we have that state of clarity, now we're going to prioritize the truth of what's actually happening around us over our own personal comfort. And I can tell you, in all my years of coaching, I was, a corporate vice president, a tech startup CEO. The moment we begin to fail is when we prioritize comfort over truth. So staying expansive as often as we can is the best thing we can do, not just for ourselves and our careers, but for the world as a whole. The unfortunate news is that most of us are in a contractive state about 80% of the time. Which is a stunning number, but it can be a small thing that can put you in a contractive state and make you feel reactive or make you judge somebody. But our job is to recognize and expand as often as we can. Because when we're contractive, that's where we're so much more likely to get stuck. And when we're in expansive, just by definition, we're unstuck because we're grounded in the truth of who we are. We're open to possibilities. We're able to reach from that place. So how do we do this? How does this magical shift happen? So I'm going to outline something for you today. What I want you to do right now is think of a goal you are having difficulty achieving. It can be a big thing, it can be a small thing. Chances are, if you signed up for this webinar, you've got one. You've got one in mind. You're feeling stuck in a life situation. Again, personal work, whatever it is. Just think it. If you have, something to write with or a computer in front of you, just jot it down. Here's the thing where I'm stuck. So now I want you to look at this and be aware of the roles you're taking. And in this case, it's not just one. You can say you're in all one, two, three. You can say you're in all of them, but just be aware of the contractive roles you're taking that are contributing to your stuckness. So for me, often, because I get judgy of, especially of myself, like I get very stuck in the way things should be going, the way things should be happening, that I miss all kinds of other opportunities that might be possible. Like I shut down that co-creative process with my idea of the way things should be. Think about if you're a reactor and you're trying to stuff down the feelings, how is that blocking you? If you're so busy people pleasing and trying to make the world, everybody else in the world feel safe and better that you can't focus on yourself, maybe that's hero mode. So as you think about this problem, this place where you're stuck in your life, which of these roles are coming up for you? Just go ahead and jot them down. Next, acceptance and grounding. So what we want you to do when you think about the problem that you're having, and when I do this in a longer session, I actually have everybody sit with their feelings for a minute. I won't do that today, but try it sometime. One, just accept that, yep, I'm a human. And this is causing me all kinds of big feelings that's causing me to contract. So I'm afraid of the future. I'm afraid of what's happening right now. I'm afraid of getting fired. I'm afraid of never solving this problem. I'm angry about feeling stuck. I'm angry I'm not getting promoted. I'm angry that I'm watching other people proceed beyond me. I'm angry at myself for not being able to solve this problem. I'm frustrated. I'm sad because I thought I could solve this problem and I can't. I'm anxious because I don't know what's going to happen. I'm resentful because things should have been solved by now. Whatever the emotions are, get in there. And maybe there's some positive ones. Maybe there's a little bit of motivation. Maybe there's a little bit of excitement. Just feel all the feelings. Do not stuff them down. Allow yourself to be present. Because until you're present, nothing's going to happen. You're not going to get unstuck. All right. So now we have to be willing to shift. And what we're saying here is that we need you to accept 100% responsibility for your part in the results created in your life and for moving yourself forward from this place. So when I say done waiting, this is what I'm talking about. You are responsible for moving yourself forward from this place. Now, I do want to clarify this is never, ever, ever about abuse, trauma, violence, illness, or crime. And this is certainly not about beating yourself up. It's simply about claiming your power in the situation. I have the power to move myself forward from this place. And it might be in a way I never envisioned before. It may not be the way I think it should be, but I am going to be responsible for it. And then from there, you have to jump in the deep end. So the first thing I want to clarify is what the deep end is as opposed to the shallow end. So the shallow end is these things that you see turning up on LinkedIn, which can be useful depending on the kind of stuckness you're experiencing. But if you're deeply stuck in something that is at a deep level of your consciousness, this stuff doesn't generally happen because it's full of things that you've already tried and already thought of. So what we're talking about today is going deeper than that and being under the surface, what's happening. So right up at the surface is our actions and words. So the things that everybody can see. And then under that are our thoughts. And sometimes our thoughts are different than our actions and words, people pleasers in particular. Sometimes underneath that, though, there's emotions that are driving the thoughts. And then beneath that is your state of consciousness. So that's how deep we're talking about going, like all the way. We're going to feel the feelings, but there's something going on underneath those feelings that we need to understand. And you might be thinking, like, is she about to talk about manifesting? No, I'm not. Why do we have to dig around in our, deep state of consciousness? And I can tell you this is why this is the truest statement I have ever come across in my life. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And you can ponder this. This is a great journaling question. What in your life, think about those roles, think about reactor, hero, judge. What in your life has resulted of that you are calling fate, that you haven't until this moment seen clearly as a pattern in your life? All right, so I'm going to take you through an example of how we're going to do this. So I'm going to start with an example that is me. When I used to do this presentation, I used to wear that blouse. I should actually change her into this blouse for I should have done that today. I forgot. So that's me up at the top. We're going to use me as an example for the first one that we do. So early in 2024, so 2 years ago, I told my board of directors at the Expansive Woman Project that I want to grow my Instagram following to 10,000 by 2025. And I have this astounding board of very competent, capable, incredible women. I have 3 PhDs. I have an orchestra conductor, an organizational therapist. I have, lawyers and finance people, 2 people who work at Google. It's this very impressive group of women. And I always feel like a lot of pressure before board meetings. I actually have one next week because I don't want to waste their time. I don't want them to feel like they're wasting their time volunteering for me, which they do. So I went in. I wasn't happy with the amount of results that I had had up until that point. And so I said, I'm going to increase my Instagram followers to 10,000 by 2025. And the response from them was like, how are you going to do that? That's a lot of work. We know what you do every day. You need 5 more Judys to make this possible. And I was like, no, 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 I can do it. What I'm going to do is Sunday mornings is going to be Instagram time. And that's like the time I'm going to spend growing my Instagram following. So my results today. Oh, by the way, that was my conscious desire. My results today, I have about 200 followers. I'm not even really sure because I haven't looked in a while. So for the Expansive Woman Project. So right now, all the persecutors are saying, like, what are you doing? My grandmother has more than that. And my heroes are like reaching for their phones, like, I can save her. I'll give her another follow. No, the truth is I didn't do the thing I said I was going to do. I was actually doing Sunday scrolling because Sunday's my day off. And I didn't want to do Instagram. I didn't feel it. It just wasn't working for me. So there's some unconscious commitments that were going on under the surface. So one, my board said, you can't do this. You need 5 Judys to do it. By the way, one of my board members' PhD is in building social audiences. It's really quite remarkable that I was like, no, 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 I can do it. It's fine. So I didn't want to listen to them because I didn't want to make them feel like they were wasting their time. But then I went a little deeper and said, what else am I doing under here? Well, actually, I have a history of creating unrealistic goals so I can feel temporarily better. And that hit. That hit. So, as another great philosopher put it, yep, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. So when you discover an unconscious commitment, own it, because that's the moment you shift into expansiveness. That's the moment you begin to become unstuck. So I just said it out loud. I'm committed to setting unrealistic expectations to make myself feel temporarily better. I had to go into a board meeting with something, and so I created this thing and said it was a goal. See the pattern. Actually, you know what? This is a lifelong habit. And often the things that keep us the most stuck are heroes, heroes have been heroes for a very, very long time. Judges have been judges for a very long time. The patterns that we have in our life are often created in childhood. So see it. It's like, oh, this is a thing I do. And then you're going to break the pattern. And the way you're going to do that is say, how can I can if. Okay? How can I stop setting myself up for failure? So you'll see, I'm no longer talking about Instagram followers because that wasn't actually the issue. The issue was something underneath that that was costing me. And I decided, well, I can if I focus on systems and not goals. Goals don't motivate me. And I can tell you how I know this for sure is in those 2 years, what I was supposed to be working on Instagram, actually my LinkedIn is the thing that took off. And very recently, I had a LinkedIn post that hit over 100,000 impressions, another one that hit over 60,000 impressions. Some of you may be here because you spotted one of those posts. I would never have set a goal to hit 100,000 impressions on LinkedIn. That's officially a viral LinkedIn post, and I would never have thought I could do that. So to me, the goal doesn't even matter. What matters is the system of work that I do leading up to the thing that I want. And so that's what I focus on. So I did break the pattern. I got unstuck, but it has nothing to do with Instagram. As it turns out, all my success is on LinkedIn. Let's do a couple more quick examples. So let's say I had a client who was a chief technology officer at a mid-sized company, and his conscious desire to me was, I want to rewrite my code base. It's a mess. I inherited this thing that's held together with chewing gum and band-aids, and I need to change it. And he'd been on the job for about 6 months and he'd done nothing, like literally nothing. He may have looked at it once or twice, but he didn't do anything. So I asked him, what are you actually doing rather than hitting your goal? Well, he was running around putting out fires. He was focusing on fixing the problems that were caused by the poor operating system instead of fixing the operating system. So this is classic in systems leadership theory. It's called firefighting. So his unconscious commitment here was to prioritizing what was urgent over what was important. And really, when we went a little bit deeper, he was trying to feel safe because rewriting a code base is really risky and scary, and it can blow up in your face. And so he didn't want to do that. He just was like avoiding it and putting out little tiny fires. And then he realized, oh, you know what? That's a lifelong pattern. His parents were new Canadians. They took a big risk coming to this country, but after that, they didn't want him taking any risks. They wanted him to stay safe, and he did for his whole life. But then it started to affect him because the thing he was hired for wasn't getting done. So he asked himself, how can I direct my focus and energy appropriately? I can if I delegate and I seek support of other CTOs. Okay. I had a client who was a vice president at a large nonprofit organization, and her conscious desire was to be promoted to COO. Her result after a year was still at the VP level. And the reason why is the company already had a COO and he wasn't going anywhere. He was a good 5 years at least from retirement. So, what she was actually doing was just staying put and feeling frustrated, waiting for an impossible thing to happen for her to get that promotion. So her unconscious commitments, first and foremost, it was to her organization's mission. She loved her organization. She didn't want to leave it. But under that was this notion of impatience. She'd been at the company for a year and she wanted that promotion. And then she realized, like, oh, yeah, that's a pattern. I've been impatient my whole life, which isn't always a bad thing, but it was causing her all this internal turmoil. So her question became, how can I cultivate strategic patience? And then she realized, well, I can't if I blossom where I'm planted, because what she really wanted was more exposure and more interesting work to be doing all kinds of different things. So she did. She increased her LinkedIn. She probably has more Instagram followers than I do as well. She started attending conferences, speaking at conferences, joining nonprofit boards. She started doing all this work, and 6 months later, another organization with a great mission recognized what she was doing and hired her as a COO. So it shows you that it's the unconscious stuff that gets us stuck because it narrows our focus. And when you expand your focus and you understand your patterns and how things are getting in your way, that's when you can begin to make shifts. So for both that VP and me, the solution was something completely different than we initially thought. With the chief technology officer, his problem was I need to delegate, I need to learn to take risks, and he did it, and he did launch his code base, and it went really well. So here's the process that we're doing here. Okay. So to make the shift between contractive to expansive, we're accepting that we are stuck and that we have big emotions about it. We are willing to accept 100% responsibility to move ourselves forward. We identify what's actually going on underneath. We see the pattern. We break the pattern. And we do that using the phrase, how can I? And answering it with, I can if. So this is what it looks like as a full. I'm just going to try and put it in the chat for you so you can have a screenshot of this. So this is what it looks like as a full strategy. I can't get it in the chat. Hang on. No, I can't get it in the chat. Go ahead and take a screenshot. Just get my branding in. This is what we do. We accept. Where am I in the triangle? We feel the feelings. That's our grounding. We have to be willing to accept 100% responsibility. That's our opening. And then we just jump in the deep end. What am I actually doing? What's going on underneath the surface? What are my unconscious commitments? Is there a pattern? Can I break the pattern? Can I use? How can I? I can if. Okay. So, Aaliyah, I see you. I will get to you very, very shortly. Thank you. All right. Another quick thing you can do is like, oh, I'll just go. I'm seeing I'm in reactor mode. So I'm just going to see how can I shift into creator mode right now? How can I focus, go from, being kind of like, to focus on solutions? How can I stop judging in this moment? How can I shift from the world of what should be happening to a world of what could be happening? So from persecutor to challenger. How can I shift from hero to coach in this moment? I'm going to rush off and clean out the fridge or do the dishes or save everybody from something. How can I coach them to do it instead? So even just in little tiny moments, you can make this shift, and over time, it becomes more of a habit. All right, so I get it. This is a lot, right? So I do a 12-hour version of this course, a 3-hour version of this course. You're getting the like 50-minute version of it. But I do want to use it for you as a way to open a door and start thinking differently about how you're showing up. And if you'd like a little bit more support in doing that, I want to tell you about a course that I'm launching at the end of May. It starts on May 22nd. And it's called Breakthrough. It's the 6-week career accelerator for women who are done waiting. So you can be at any level in an organization to make this happen. And here's what we're going to do in those 6 weeks. We're going to change how things work for you. So, one, you're going to stop performing and start embodying. So you're not going to need that external validation. You're going to be grounded in the truth of who you are. You're going to know who you are. You're going to know exactly what you stand for. You're going to own your voice. You're going to show up because you have that grounding. You're going to show up and know exactly what you want because that is such a big question for so many of us. You'll be able to navigate the system with your eyes wide open without losing who you are. You'll know exactly what you want, as I said before, and you'll be able to declare it and mean it. So everything we learned today is expanded, throughout the course. We take it 6 weeks, 1 week at a time. There's a different element of what we learned today that we discuss at every point. But at the end, you come out a very different person. I've run this course or versions of it for years and years. And what I know is that the woman at the end of the 6 weeks is very different than the woman who started at the beginning. And she's always so grateful that she signed up, that she was there. So here's what I want to tell you about. I would love it if you could join us. Right now, it's at 997 US dollars. You can make three payments of 333 if that's easier for you. You get 6 weekly live sessions. They're all recorded, so if you miss anything, you can catch up. I have live office hours, 2 sessions where you can just show up and receive live one-on-one coaching from me. There's all these videos and workbooks and supporting materials that will help you through the whole process, and you get to keep all of it for a year. And you get to connect with like-minded women. So right now, because we're in a webinar, you can't see each other. But what I do want is for you to, if you come, you're all live, you're all in the session, you do breakout groups together. There's actually a community that looks like Facebook but isn't Facebook, and I keep your data safe, where you can join. It's part of the Expansive Women Project, so you can be there with all these other expansive women. And as I said, you can be in there for 1 year. Because you're here today, if you register using the code Breakthrough 100, you'll get $100 off. So three payments of $299 instead of 333. Um, and yeah. What's so powerful about this course, it's my favorite thing to do. It's the best thing I've ever done in my career, is that it does turn into this reckoning with personal identity. It turns into, okay, how can I be expansive more often? How can I see my unconscious commitments? How can I see what's going on so that I can get unstuck and advance and become a part of the solution for the world? So you can learn more about it here. And I would love to see you there. Again, it begins May 22nd, which is what, 6 or 7 weeks away. So you've got some time to decide. But it is capped, the amount of people who can go in. So if you want to get in there, I would advise you to get in soon because it does tend to fill up. And I just want to leave you this one last thing before we take questions. And I will go beyond the hour to take questions if you're willing to stick around. And that's just that beginnings and endings are difficult to spot. So while you might feel stuck now, it's entirely possible that you're already in the process of getting unstuck. It could be that a conversation you had last month or a week ago that like put a little light bulb in your head might be the beginning of something. And quite often the ending of something, it ends way before you actually see the ending physically come. So just keep that in mind. Each of you is a sunrise. Each of you is in the process of growing and changing and learning. And we never know exactly when something begins or when something else ends. But just be there and be present and be a part of your own plan for your life. So that's it. If you want to reach me personally, you can reach out at judy@judysims.com. If you're not already a member of the Expansive Woman Project, please go join. It's free. You will get weekly resources, all kinds of free stuff like these webinars, but we also have lots of workbooks and other things that we do for you, because we are a profit company, but we are one with a mission, and it really is to get more and more women into leadership roles. So if you need some career strategies, this is going to be the place for you to get it. All right, so Aaliyah, you had a question. I am going to allow you to talk. You just have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. Hi, Judy and everyone else who's on the line. I just wanted to ask a question. I noticed that the chat was disabled during the webinar. But I was curious, because you had broken down in that slide, you had asked us to take a screenshot of the grounding, opening, and reaching.
Mm-hmm.
What to provide like actual kind of specific questions we could ask ourselves to identify, where are we in the contractive triangle? What are the feelings? Like actually trying to break it down. Because sometimes when you're in that feeling and you're feeling that adrenaline, it's hard to really find
Mm.
clarity.
If you can't find clarity, you're in reactor mode.
Mm,
That's the surest sign that you're in reactor mode because you are like so much in the fog, right, of hope
yeah,
and fear that nothing else is getting through. So that's when you're in reactor mode. If you recognize yourself in the other things, if you find yourself people pleasing, if you find
yeah,
yourself not wanting to set a boundary or doing something you don't want to do, you're in hero mode. And if you find yourself beating yourself up or using the word should a lot, then you're in judge mode. It becomes very clear. A great way to learn this trick is to set a timer on your phone. You can download a randomly remind me app. There's a few of them for both Android and iPhones, and just set it to go off 4 times a day randomly. And in that moment it goes off, ask yourself, where am I right now? Because most of us bounce around in there all day long.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
that's really helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, AJ, I'm going to allow you to talk. Just have to unmute yourself, my love. Not getting AJ. I don't know if you're talking, my darling, because I can't hear you. Okay. Sorry about that, dear. I can't hear you talking. Are there any other questions while we try to figure out what's happening with AJ? Now's the time. I don't know why the chat was disabled. There must have been something in the setup that I didn't. Oh no, it's in the Q&A. Here we go. Marianne is asking, is this in the US or Canada or both? It's live online, so it can be anywhere in the world. You can be anywhere in the world. Share the link to the assessment along with the recording. So that is at expansivewoman.co/breakthrough. Okay. And can I get clarity on where, what if I can't get clarity on my goal? Where can I start? You start where you start with your values. You start with the truth of who you are. You start with what's most important to you. On expansivewoman.co, there is a course called, it's an online course for $47 called Discovering Your North Star. That's where you start. Because you can't set goals until you are aware of what the core of who you are. So we all have 3 to 5 core values that are about who we truly are, and it's kind of like our grounding. And from there, we can begin the process of thinking about goals. And my lovely friend Ellie, he says, I'm not even going to read that, Ellie, but thank you. Okay. Any other questions? You can raise your hand. AJ, if you want to try again to talk, I think that's it. Okay. All right, my friends. Well, thank you so much for coming on board and asking all these wonderful questions. Um, It's been a joy, and I hope I get to see you again. I hope you join the Expansive Women Project for starters. I hope you take the assessment, which is right on the homepage of the Expansive Women Project, so you can see where you're stuck and get the free workbooks. And I hope to see you at the 6-week breakthrough program. It's life-changing, and it's such a joy for me to meet you all. So, with that, I will say goodbye. Have a lovely rest of your day. I'm going to go eat some lunch because I'm starving. And I hope to see you all again soon. Bye bye.